It's June 14th. Please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Reminder, if you have comments on something on the agenda, we will hear from you under public comment. We have a lot to go through, so first thing is council. I have 3 resolutions that we need to add to the agenda. Is that okay?
I don't know, I haven't read it.
This is from Rob in regards to budget, and he will explain to them.
Oh, okay, these ones we got in our packet?
No, these are 3 new ones that Rob just
The
printed
ones
out.
up here.
Okay.
So we would like to add those on, and then he will explain them. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, minutes of May 24th council. Is everybody ready to vote? Any questions, additions? There were a motion to pass the minutes of May 24th.
I make a motion, pass the council meeting minutes from May 24th, 22.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of passing the minutes of May 24th? Say aye. Opposed? Okay, in the report, we have water project wetlands review, and Nick Cody is here to explain this. This is in regards to the water project.
Yep, so we're going through the environmental report and all the documents for our, for the water project. Given it a sign off, so now we also submitted everything to SHPO, which is the State Historic Office, and also to all the tribes. They made us also submit the letter to the last one to check off is the wetlands folks, because there's some maps I put in here. Even though there's not really wetlands in the middle of your reservoir site, a map from 40 years ago says there are, so now we have to jump through some hoops. The more intense way that they could make you do it is do what's called a wetland delineation, which would take 4 to 6 months. You'd have to have a biologist go out there and look at the grass and dig holes, and it's a big long thing. So we're trying to not have to do that and submit some paperwork to DSL from the city that would basically present them the project, explain what it is, show them the photos, show them the maps, and they can kind of give an opinion whether they thought they would put wetlands there. I tried to do it already, and they said they really wanted to have the input of the city and the planning commission. So all the documents are here. I'm happy to explain it all. It's pretty straightforward.
This is the document where you said, under project 1, 2, 3, or 4, where you explain.
Yep, and it's got like the background recommendation language, subject as wetlands determination for the water project. Basically, I just want the city planning authority to say that you don't think a wetland permit is needed for the water project.
Will they do a site review? You're trying to get around that.
Well, they'll do kind of an informal desktop review, but the alternative would be, to have a biologist come on site and then submit a report that takes them 4 months just to look at. So, I mean, if we have to do that, we're not going to get it done by September. So this is kind of our shot to try to make it fast, because they'll respond within 30 days of us submitting the information. We've already kind of looked at it and know what it's about. They just wanted a few more pieces of information and have the city weigh in a little more of an official way. So.
Well, I read through this and all looks good to me.
What's your opinion? Do we need one or not?
Oh, I don't think you need a wetland delineation. I think you need to submit this thing so they can tell you you don't need one. And then really what we're doing is we're trying to get the State Department that regulates wetlands to give us a letter, so the people that control our money will look past it and say it's no big deal and go forward and advance things. So this is, in my opinion, the best way to move things through quickly and get the sign-offs from you.
In your representation of us, you think we ought to say we don't need one, right?
Yes, yes.
Well, then I move that we don't need.
Okay, so are all in favor for letting him go forward with his review responses?
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, go ahead. What about the archaeological people? Are they still coming?
I was gonna give an update on that. Last time I was here, I found an outfit to come out and do a survey and look at the tank and write up the documentation. My hope with that was to have them do some work on the front end, because they're certified archaeologists, and what they say Chabot will kind of just run with. They were kind of fighting back with me about who does what and how long we would want to wait, and they wanted me to reach out to Chabot first, so I just did it all, except for the part that you need a certified archaeologist to do. Chabot may still ask for that, or they may not. So they basically told us we have to go find out what Chabot really wants. And then if they need that, they'll come in and be ready to provide the services. So we're crossing our fingers that we might just sneak through and not need any of it. But if we do, it's going to add, 45 days to the process. So I was just trying to save, a month or two. That would might not happen. So that was the fastest way I could get it.
Any other questions for Nick? Wastewater.
Did you want to talk about that too?
Yeah, while you're here.
Sure.
What we're doing is we're gonna go in for an engineering wastewater grant, like we did.
There's like a little $20,000 technical assistance grant that we can get. I talked to Joe Hitz yesterday. We were going to talk to him last week. Sounds like he just needs about $15,000 to finish off, not including the past invoice issue, but kind of what's left to do. One of the big things that he said is to get a boundary survey and a topographical survey to make sure the property lines are where everybody says they are and thinks they are. That'll be pretty big when we get federal money. We got to make sure we're building things where we think we're building them. And then he didn't know we were going to want to get block grant to construct it. So he's probably going to have to submit his plan set to Business Oregon, and then they may ask him to make some changes or some revisions for it to be ready. But he said that should cover us to get him what he needs to get us to that point where we can apply for up to $2.5 million for block grant to construct the wastewater. So we'll get started on that $20,000 plan grant.
So is that something Business Oregon is gonna send us to get started on, or is it?
No, it's something when I have
Okay.
when I have some time. It's not,
Okay.
I'm not working on the water project. I
So
can't work
we'll
on
just
that.
wait until we hear from you.
Yep,
Okay.
or Renee or whoever
Okay.
can start working on it.
Now, on the finished product that Joe's working on, it's going to include the DEQ report too.
Not sure. I think what I understand is he's pretty much done all the design. He's got the package together, but there hadn't been a survey that had been done, a topographical and boundary survey, get a surveyor out. And then, he was thinking it would be a different funding source to construct it. So he just has to recalibrate that. I'm not sure about what might be going on with DEQ and the ports.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks so much for helping us.
Yes, I will.
Fire department, Kurt.
Okay, we haven't had any fire calls. We've been responding to some medical calls. We've got all of our brush trucks in good working, ready to go order for when that does come up. The structure truck that needs the pump test redone. hail pumps, making the parts, gonna try and ship them August 4th from back east. So that's where that's at. At that point, I told the guy that does the certification, we'll wait till fire season, into September, 1st October, before snow flies anyway, get it to him and get it taken care of. Mike Manning and Al Jones have went through a rigorous EMS class. I mean, tons and tons of hours and on, when it's a lot tougher to do online than it is right hands-on in person and stuff. So I want to give those guys a good pat on the back for going through that. And special thanks to Jim and Scheller and John Young, because they make my job awful easy. Let's see, and last night we had wildfire certification classes at Bowen Valley. That all went good. Everybody in the class got their certificate, so it's all good. And I guess that's it.
What is the Curtis and Sons, the fire department repairs?
Put a radio in one of the brush trucks. They do all of our communication is there, yeah.
Any questions for Kurt?
On your, when you guys go down and fill up the trucks with fuel,
Yes.
we need to know where that went, because when we pick up a fuel bill from Mike, it's blank where you guys did it. Mike's the one that said that I'm the one who filled it out, and he said, Kurt just came in and gets fuel and then because we got the guys, they're putting down, so we keep track of where the charges go, whether it goes to streets.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So if you could do that, Kurt.
Well, he knows if I'm coming in, it's a fire department charge.
The thing is.
But you're supposed to sign for it.
Okay.
See, because without a signature there, we don't know who.
Right, okay, so that's.
Well, you guys picked up antifreeze, so the question was for antifreeze. Why did we get antifreeze? And then the guys going, we didn't get antifreeze, we got antifreeze in the shop. So that way we know here when Renee gets the bill.
Right, got it.
So she knows where to charge it to.
Okay,
That's all, that's the only thing I had to add.
perfect, yeah, we can do that.
Okay, new business, Mr. Garland.
All right, we doing, so at some point, we actually have to separate into the budget
Okay.
hearing, so you guys know about the budget, that would be separate than both. What you do is you go into the budget hearing to accept the budget, you close the budget hearing and resume regular council, so you can do that whenever.
To the bill and
Okay, so bills in front of you, really nothing exciting this month. We've got, my bill's a little higher, we've got some audit support charges in there. We just asked about the fire department repairs, that was $1,300. And then that fuel stop, or the stage stop bill was just a little higher this month. On the bill itself, I detailed what each vehicle, how much fuel we have in each vehicle, so if council wants to read that. Other than that, nothing too exciting on the bills.
Questions for Rob on the bills?
I guess we haven't heard anything back from them because we didn't pay Stump, right? But the law.
So we have not received a new bill.
So
The last one we have is from April.
okay.
The fire department repairs is how much?
1,300.
Should be 130. It was just I put in a used radio, it took him 10 minutes.
It's 1386.
Or
It just says Curtis and Sons Fire Department repairs.
Do you have the actual bills? It's just the summary. 1,386.
I'll have to look at it. Yeah, it was a 10-minute job on the used radio that we took you. The only repair that I'm aware of, guys,
Okay, well, that's what I
the
asked.
only thing that I had said the fire department was doing was putting a radio, so this might not be fire department.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to accept? and pay the bills?
Until they figure out what the charges for the Curtis and Sons, can we hold off on, take that out? until-
Oh, okay,
Because
got it.
Yeah.
So this is, yeah, he did this 4 months ago. This is the SCBA's.
Oh, gotcha.
So that was, yeah.
So it was.
Sorry. No, well, I knew we didn't have anything recent other than, and that's what it came from Baker County Sheriff's Department, the last bill, because it was their radio stuff.
So this was for fire.
SCBA's fire department, yes.
What's it stand for?
Sue gets the suits.
SCBA,
Yeah.
self-contained breathing apparatus.
Oh,
Well, that's when they were parked out here.
Yeah, and that was quite a while ago. That's why I lost track of it.
We just got the bill.
I make a motion to pay the bills as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, bills. So now,
Do we want to go to resolution?
yes, now we need to break out and go into.
Do we want to go over the additional resolutions? Or do we want to go over the budget? Okay. So. So the new resolutions, they do not have to be adopted here. We can do it at the next meeting in June. I'm generally not here at the second meeting, so I want to go over it with you guys who you're signing. These are resolutions to amend the budget so that we don't exceed budget for the current year, for the 2020 year. So we don't exceed budget in the various expense items. There's three separate ones. 41122 accepts the CDBG grant and appropriates it as follows. And we're allowed to do that by resolution because we're accepting revenues for a specific purpose. 412-22 is the same thing, accepting a small cities allotment grant that we got back at the beginning of the year for $25,000 and appropriating it so that we can spend it for those two items. And then these two small, there's two intra-fund transfers from one appropriations category to another, that neither one of them exceed 10% of the fund value. And so we're able to do that by resolution. And so we're just moving funds that we appropriated in personal services and sewer funds to capital outlay. And that's to cover the lease cost that we threw in there. And the revenue that we received for the insurance last year, the building, we ended up allocating that to multiple funds. There was no capital outlay appropriated or insufficient capital outlay appropriated this year. General fund, we spent more in parks than we thought we would, and less in administrative, so we're moving some administrative dollars to parks. So that's what those three are. We could save them and put them on the agenda for the next meeting in June if you prefer. I just wanted to make sure I had a chance to talk that through.
Let's do it now. Get it over with.
Okay, so we need to go into the.
These are just normal resolutions. You just need to be a motion to accept each one of these resolutions.
Okay, do we have permission to read these by title only, or do you want to read them entirely?
I've already read them. I don't need to.
Okay,
So by title,
title only.
Who's making that motion?
I'll make the motion that we need to read the three resolutions title only.
And all in favor? Okay, resolution number 408-22. A resolution of the city of Sumter, Baker County, Oregon, approving participation in the Oregon State Revenue Sharing Program.
No,
You got the wrong
sorry.
number.
I'm sorry. Those are the budget resolutions. We'll get to the budget.
Okay, yeah, I just put them all together.
Sorry.
Dang, now. Yes, I didn't have that copy either. Okay. Resolution 411-22, a resolution accepting and appropriating unanticipated revenues. Any questions?
None.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept this resolution?
Make a motion to accept resolution 411-22, a resolution accepting and appropriating unanticipated revenues.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? And Central Oregon fiscal year 21-22, resolution number 412-22. A resolution accepting and appropriating unanticipated revenues.
And make a motion to accept 412-22 as stated.
Second,
Awesome.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And then Central Oregon fiscal year 21-22, resolution number 413-22. A resolution moving general and sewer funds.
Make a motion to accept resolution 413-22 as stated.
Second. All in favor? All opposed?
Now, if you want to call the budget hearing to order, you can.
Okay. Okay, I now call the budget hearing to order in regards to our 2022-2023 budget.
We have President of the Budget.
No, it's not here.
Well,
That's
just-
right.
The budget before you was approved by the Budget Committee and is presented to council for adoption. So, discussion, anything, or any questions?
Yeah, I think we've all,
It's the exact same.
exact
one
same thing
approved.
we
Yep.
discussed, yeah.
It was advertised in the paper in summary.
Okay.
And so we have some resolutions if council wants to adopt that budget. Because you guys were all part of the hearing. That's why, just for everybody's sake, that's why I'm not going over it again, because everyone here is present. for that.
Any questions?
No.
Is there a motion to accept this budget? Adopt.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
And we have specific
Then
resolutions.
now I can go through the
Yeah, we can go over those
resolution. Yay.
resolutions.
City of Sumter, Sumter, Oregon, resolution number 408-22. A resolution of the city of Sumter, Baker County, Oregon, approving participation in the Oregon State Revenue Sharing Program.
Make a motion to accept resolution number 408-22 as stated.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, City of Sumter, Sumter, Oregon, resolution number 409-22. A resolution to impose and categorize taxes for fiscal year 2022-2023 budget.
Make a motion to accept resolution number 409-22 as stated.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye. Yeah, okay, I'm jumping ahead.
It's okay.
City of Sumter, resolution number 410-22, adopting the budget, which we did. So,
Except we're not a district.
Uh-oh. Use
where
the
did you
straight
put it?
number.
Where did you put it?
We should probably just cross it out and say.
Oh, the budget is now on file.
The
at
district's business office, good catch,
What should it be?
city.
City. So we will change that to me. Well, is that all the budget ones? Since Sherry's not here, okay, we will now close the budget hearing. And we're back with me, the city council meeting. Any other questions for Rob? No. On to planning. We have Simonson Blum lot line adjustment. Okay, yeah, yeah.
So I'm the real estate agent, trying to help Dave and Bob fix their property line issue. So the background, at some point, a long time ago, I think the house was put on the neighbor's property completely. So they came to me and said, how do we fix this? And what I suggested was do a lot line adjustment between the two of you and sell the property that you're adding to one person's lot who needs it. So this lot line adjustment request would fix the issue of one party's house being completely on the neighbor's property. They're both in agreement. The sale contract is in place. It's contingent upon this lot line adjustment being finalized. So if it isn't possible or it can't be done, then the deal just doesn't go through. So what else do I need to tell you? There's also a platted subdivision that's in your packet there. It's a pretty old subdivision. It was platted in 1900. And they're requesting to vacate the highlighted streets that are showed, I think probably in the last page of the packet there. So they would need a lot line adjustment and to vacate the streets that are highlighted, and that would fix this issue that they've got with these two neighboring properties. Both parties are completely in agreement. They asked me to show up at this meeting and see if I can answer any questions that you guys might have.
You're not creating any new parcels, are you?
Nope. Make it one bigger and one smaller. Total property that will be exchanged is 2.13 acres.
And they both then fall within the minimums in the zone.
Yes. Yep.
What about the vacation now? Do we have to vacate something
So,
through the process?
There is a road easement, a couple of road easements that go through that parcel, and they don't actually show up on the county plat. The surveyor was able to pull this plat, I think, from Sumter City Records. Very old subdivision. It's called the St. Louis subdivision, and it kind of runs through that whole area. But this person's house, not only was it built on the neighbor's property, but it was built on like right in the middle of one of those streets. So the house, the street would have to be vacated, the property line would have to be adjusted. Yeah, that would clean it up.
Not sure we can do that in this proceeding.
The vacate's a whole different process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no paperwork to make it. So our maps show these streets.
County maps don't show those streets. Yeah, I got that map from the surveyor that did the survey for the lot line adjustment.
I think, yeah, if we're gonna have to vacate the street, we have to. There's one more step.
Okay.
2 more steps.
They have to come in and get an application.
Yeah, that's what I mean, we'll have to get an application. for
Application to
vacate,
vacate.
And then there's a whole process.
Sure. Yeah.
Who's the surveyor, Myers?
Okay.
So the surveyor is Hanley, and the person that actually did the groundwork contracts with Hanley, and that's Chris Myers.
This is the one, the application for street vacate shows Hanley on it. So I guess the consensus is we need to have him do vacate streets before we go any farther in this.
Well, does the parcel qualify absent streets for the minimum lot size? If it does, you can do the lot line adjustment, but most of it's street. That's their problem, not ours.
I was kind of hoping we could get started with the lot line adjustment and then maybe sort the vacate out at some other point, or get started on the vacate after this meeting.
Okay, so what do you guys think?
Well, is the vacate, well, his house is in the middle of it, but the vacate itself won't disrupt the lot line adjustment.
Shouldn't, no.
That's actually would be Mr. Blum's problem and not Simon
Right.
Sons on this.
Right, and he's aware of that. He said, you know, we may be able to pull off the lot line adjustment. Don't know for sure about the vacate, so.
How long is that
The
house
only,
been
the
there?
only issue that I would have is if we do the lot line adjustment, it can't, I would say that we can't do the lot line adjustment until you do the vacate. Because if we do the lot line adjustment, then he doesn't have to come in and do the vacate. So therefore, we missed that step. So I don't know how you would word it to where,
You care if somebody drives in the middle of his house, if he's got it in an illegal street, or in the street
Yeah.
illegally, that's his problem, isn't it?
okay, if you want to go that way.
Because this is not something that's ever gonna be developed.
Can't put nothing in the street.
Yeah,
No,
so.
so he's gotta do it.
Sort of feels like to me like maybe the county erased those streets anyway, if it's not, I mean, the plot plan you're looking at is from 1900. The current plot plan with the county doesn't show those streets there anyway. What I'm hearing, it sounds like maybe the streets were basically.
Somebody needs to dig that out of the records.
I can dig into that also. There's definitely some conflicting information.
Well, why don't we do what we do best, table
I would rather not. I would rather not,
it? Well, I mean, are you, you know, you say there are some problems. That sounds like you're uncomfortable with proceeding with one without the other.
I would be comfortable doing the lot line adjustment, and then, you know, the property lines adjusted, at least his house is on his property. And
Or the
then-
cities.
Right, sit in the middle of the city street on his property. And then if it's possible to do the vacate, you know, start working on that next, figure out, you know, what's actually going on with that subdivision. Maybe it already has been vacated.
Well, what if the city, for some reason, doesn't agree to vacate? If it hasn't already been vacated?
Right.
Now he's got a house in the middle of the street.
Yep.
Are we, you know, are we gonna make him tear his house down?
But he's also got a house right now on someone else's property also.
That's his problem.
So he
not
owns a
ours.
house and it's nowhere land. That's,
Maybe they ought to be done together concurrently.
How old's the house?
Super old. I don't know for sure. I know it's been there for something like 30.
So it's a pre-existing non-conformity. That's how they call that. Big people speak.
Yeah, except
Pre-existing non-conformity.
that doesn't work against the salt. So it's up to you. Do you,
I don't have a problem. I would just assume they were all done together. It might cause a problem if we do one and don't have the other issue addressed, but let's table on something too. Either way, it's somebody owns a house on the city street. I mean, the house.
Well, the thing is, though, if we decide not to vacate where the house is at, he's got to move his house anyways, so he can move it on his property. And then he doesn't have to do a lot line adjustment.
but then does he need to set that?
Oh, there's,
I
yeah.
think you better do this all at once. Otherwise, we're gonna solve one problem and create another.
Mhm.
And knowing Mr. Blum, I'm not sure that he will follow through with one if we do one and not the other.
So we could get you the vacate paperwork and if you can get it done right away. We could readdress this at the end of this month. Okay.
That works.
That works.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we'll get in that paperwork and then put it on for next. For the end of June. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
What's the name of the street?
But as of now,
There's a whole subdivision.
There's a whole-
Yeah, I didn't think St. Louis went that far down there, because it starts at the corner of Joy and Martin's house, I believe.
I don't think it does. I think it went beyond that.
Is it?
But, you know, as this lady pointed out, it could have been vacated earlier. And I would think the assessor could probably tell us that.
Martin,
Wow.
I'm Dawn from the building
Oh,
department.
yes.
Nice to meet you.
Oh,
Yeah.
we've talked a million
A million
times.
times. I know.
Okay.
Just thought maybe I should introduce
Okay.
myself.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Don, I should have said
Oh, I
something.
That's okay.
I,
I tried.
Okay, so we tabled that one
This week.
until June, whatever it is. Jeff Long shed application.
You're welcome.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry. Have you guys looked at this? Questions? He's here to answer any questions.
no, originally we were gonna build a house, but no. We were gonna build a small cabin.
Yeah.
And now.
Still gonna do that. We're gonna start with the shed.
What's the lot? I know it's
Up on Badger.
It's the one that's in the,
the whole.
Badger and,
Yeah.
Badger
well,
and
it's up on
Paisley.
top of the hole.
Yeah, that one. The B lot.
Badger and Paisley, it looks like.
Yes.
Still doing the house and then gonna do the shed.
Doing the shit first.
Gonna do the shed first.
You guys buy those property stakes?
No, I gotta get it surveyed before I can do anything.
Okay.
Called a couple surveyors, they haven't got back to me yet.
So how do you know you're within the proper setbacks if you haven't had it surveyed?
Well, I figured I wouldn't pour any concrete till I got it surveyed.
The worst he's done then is kiss $40 goodbye. As it turns out, it isn't where he thinks it is.
Well, the thing is, those, even if the property line moves over, it's still gonna be 15 feet off of it and 5 feet off the other end. Wherever that lands up inside the property line.
Yeah, if he's got that much, that's right.
So that, to me, for what he's saying, and the man's already admitted that he's gonna get it surveyed. So we don't end up doing this, like this one we just handled.
Or if the
For a
pin's
lot.
closer, you lose your 5.
Huh?
What if the pin's closer and you lose your 5 foot?
Well, I won't pour any concrete till I get
Then you
that.
have to do the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's to us, because we're always in the dark anyways, we always assume everybody's got their property line marked out. We always assume that. When it comes to us, it has the right setbacks, that's all we care about. And we know that how many acres it's supposed to be. So, it's a law.
But that, I know, but that also leaves us in a position to have to follow up and make sure that the pins are there and the building's in the correct position.
You know that.
The building department does take a glance at it if it's something that goes through structural, because when we go do our first inspection, we kind of glance to make sure that it looks like it's at the right spot. If that makes you feel any better.
You want to stick build this?
I'm gonna shut up.
I got a little.
Well, it's a
Yeah.
10 by 20, so you wouldn't be involved.
Oh, no, you're right.
So you wouldn't be involved in it, so. It's gonna have the,
Thing is, though, is like I said, as far as I'm concerned, because he's gonna miss the setbacks wherever his property lines are. I make a motion that we approve Jeff Long's shed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All opposed?
Yeah.
Okay, you can build your shed.
All right, thank you.
After you get it surveyed. Okay, let's see. Ken Wilson, Hartmo. You guys don't know all the new paperwork. So, has it been determined whether that park model was it certified by, as an RV or anything?
Our model recreation vehicle certification. And then I have to flash it up. How many square feet is it again? It's 12 by 41,
482.
42.
482, that's what he has on his application.
And as per our last meeting, Mark and I believe it was you that said that you take a make a real property, so we did that with the assessor's office.
Yeah.
This statute is fairly new. So, excuse me.
It's 480.
Something in here about it being. You worked with Sean Berry on this, right? What is his name? Yep. Fairly tall, slender guy. He's really good. Knows what he's doing. Well, somewhere in this statute, and I had it, it talked about, park model recreational vehicle. It's designed for use as temporary living quarters. It's built on a single chassis mounted on wheels. Has a gross trailer area that does not exceed 400 square feet. Or the other half of that. Just a minute. It says is more than 8.5 feet wide and complies with standards. And I'm just reading from your. This is their form?
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
top half of it. We just read. It's the bottom half that's like this.
Okay. Oh. Began use as living quarters on it before January 1st, 2021. It was not permanently fixed. Yeah.
So what are you saying? What are you looking at?
Well, this thing's over 400 feet, right?
480.
480. So that means it could be detitled probably as something other than a park model, probably an RV or something like that.
They detitled it to the property.
Okay, so it's done.
It's done.
Okay. Then, I don't really have a problem with it as long as there is some kind of restriction, a deed restriction that says it has to be used for commercial purposes. And here's my concern, that on down the road, I come into town and I'm looking for a little cabin and I see that and you sell it to me and I intend it to be my cabin, but you don't disclose to me it has to be commercial. I pay you for it. You retire to Ecuador and I got no place to go for recourse after the planning people get a hold of it. So do you object to having a deed restriction Or
That
have
was
they,
actually my suggestion last time around. You said you don't think we need to put a deed restriction on it.
well, now having read this statute, having talked to Sean, I think it's a good idea. Because, you know, I'm dealing with another case right now for some people up here where the guy, they paid cash for it, and he's in Idaho, and he's denying responsibility, and these people shouldn't have to put up with that kind of crap. And just to protect a buyer. If it's okay, it's okay. Deed restriction can be removed.
Okay with me?
Because we have a lot of other of these in town, including some people in this room right now.
I think it's a cute house, but I still stand by the fact that according to our ordinance, it's the resident that states in the section 5.15 of the residence in a commercial establishment. You can have the residence in the back, but the commercial establishment has to be in front of the building.
But the whole-
So Airbnb gets all commercial.
Yeah.
Commercial, whole piece is commercial.
How, can I ask how you're running power and water and sewer to it?
Sure, there's a septic tank on it, and it's got a plug that plugs into an outlet.
To what?
I've got powers and septic on the lot.
So it will be sitting there permanently, but electricity will be on a cord?
That's how it's set up right now, the cord comes out, plugs into the,
I think it goes through someone else's property.
you think?
No, the electric runs through my property too.
Oh,
because it's all under-
But I already had the power coming out, and they have some kind of a junction running for a house that makes it work that way.
That doesn't-
Doesn't affect her, doesn't affect me.
No,
So the electrical line, it doesn't come off.
It's gonna-
Major
John,
line.
you're.
It has to be hooked up permanently.
Well, yeah,
which means that it has to be on a permanent foundation, it can't be on wheels and be picked up to permanent electric.
Or are blocks still legal?
It is.
If you did it on blocks?
I mean, I'm just here if somebody had a question for the building department, and John is the commercial electrical inspector for Baker now. And so he knows about the electrical, but from what my understanding is that electricity can't be permanently on a power cord all through the winter. That's not a safe situation, so it would need to be permanent, but it can't be permanent if the building isn't attached to the ground. And so if the building's not attached to the ground, not to mention, a park model RV doesn't meet the dwelling code. And so if you're gonna use it as a dwelling all the time, whether it's all the time for people or, you know, temporary type of thing, I mean, that's a land use decision for you guys to make. Usually in the cities, park model RVs aren't allowed to be used on private land. They're usually required to be in a trailer park. And it's just because of land use development code standards, because if you let one, then they'll be all over town. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with your park model RV, I'm just saying that that's not normally allowed. Like everywhere else in Baker County, I think it's allowed in Greenhorn, and I think it's allowed in the city of Haines, but there's no place else in Baker County that you can live in a park model RV on a private lot legally.
We're not normal.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's a
He's not
land use
living
decision, but I'm telling you, if that's the land use decision you go with, he's got a little bit of work to do in order to get the electric, water and sewer need.
Okay, Ken, are you gonna put it on a foundation? You talked about it last time.
I was going to, but then they said, hey, we don't want it affixed to the ground.
What?
They don't want it affixed to the property. Not be affixed to the property.
But they want to tax this property. I don't see why they wouldn't do that.
I just don't want you guys to tell me this, I'm not running around in a circle.
so,
And the thing is too, Don, is this one here is not on private property, this is on commercial property.
Well, it's just
Wait,
private.
wait.
No, you're right, but I will just say the other thing, that a park model RV that is not built to the dwelling code. And nor is it built with, if this is from like Riches and,
I got a compliance letter right here, right off the cabinet inside the RV.
from,
Same was built as a manufacturer standards to the date time of manufacture.
from, who said? Oh, sorry, let me read it.
we have to do, you know, we have to go by what our ordinance are. I mean,
Sure.
you know, what Baker County has right now, we have to go how our ordinances.
That's correct, and on down the road, we still will have to, even, although we might adopt Baker County's by reference, but
Yeah.
it's our ordinances. And the distinction between commercial and private, there is none.
No.
I mean, it's privately owned commercial or it's government owned. Those are the only two choices, really. And so, you know, just because they aren't normally allowed in other areas, you know, that's other areas.
Can I ask Don a question? Don, is there a difference between living in it and renting it on a daily basis? Is it still a domicile at that
I don't
point?
know, I've never looked it up to be used as an Airbnb through the code. I just know that they don't typically utilize licensed electricians, licensed plumbers, all the things that you would normally require. And even if you said, yeah, I want to set it on the foundation and make it a permanent like dwelling, we don't have the ability to inspect it for the structure, the insulation, you know, all of that's enclosed. We can't see any of it. So I'm not sure how the building itself becomes a dwelling or to meet the dwelling code.
Same
That's
way
all I'm saying.
as a manufactured home, you don't get to see
You know,
it.
the manufactured homes have certified plants and they come with stickers that
They do.
are approved by the government.
And this has a sticker too.
Not approved by, it's approved by the company.
Says here, Oregon manufacturer standards.
And there's a statute, the legislature specifically enacted a statute for these park model homes, tiny homes. And so it seems to me that he would be required to put it on a foundation and hook electrical up to it, like, you know, permanent.
Permanently, not by a cord or.
And then he's gonna have a deed restriction that says you gotta have this for commercial. So he can't sell it to some unsuspecting schmuck, who then runs into trouble with some agency. I mean, at some point in time, this town has to start enforcing the CR zone.
Yes. But at this point, but yeah, the electrical would definitely have to be permanent, not by some cord or something.
Well, the reason for a cord though, is, if I'm not mistaken, is because it's an RV. And if you want to make it to where it's not an RV and you're putting it on blocks, you're taking it off the wheels. And they're not,
Yeah, well,
and it's not like the RVs, like, you know, where you get your jack out and you jack the back down, you know, sports front. You put your A-frame on the
Yeah.
fifth wheel side.
the state of Oregon building code says that the only way that you can be attached with a temporary power cord is if within 30 minutes you can unplug everything and pull it away. And if that's the case, then you're talking about an RV camping on a commercial lot. But if you're gonna leave it there all the time, but there really, even if he puts it on the foundation, there's no way to, you're talking about a statute that says that you have to allow tiny homes. But tiny homes are built when you can still inspect them all the way up. An RV is still an RV, it doesn't meet the dwelling code. You can, it's beautiful, and I agree, it's very cute, but it doesn't meet that. And even if you put it on a foundation, it'll never meet that. It'll meet the electrical part of it, but it would never meet the dwelling code.
Let me read this section in statute, 801-409. And it's entitled recreational vehicle conversion. This came right from the enrolled section of the legislative act in 2019, section 2330, or House Bill 2330. And it says, a recreational vehicle that has a title issued by the Department of Transportation does not qualify as a structure. And this is under the definition of recreational vehicle. If a recreational vehicle is being converted to use as a structure, at the time of commencing the conversion, the owner shall surrender the title and any registration issued for the recreational vehicle to the department for cancellation. A recreational vehicle that is converted to use as a structure is subject to the state building code. There is a rebuttable presumption that a recreational vehicle has been converted to use as a structure if the recreational vehicle is located outside a mobile home park as defined in ORS 446-003 and has been rendered structurally immobile or has direct attachment to utilities. So this is kind of like the bastard child that doesn't seem to fit anywhere. But you know, the statute to me is pretty plain. The legislature enacted this, whether right or wrong. There are many things I will say parenthetically they enact that I don't agree with, but they did this, and so we're stuck with it. So if he puts the covenant on and he hardwires it, you know, with I guess a meter base and all that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it has to be, yeah.
And puts it on a foundation. I don't know what the problem is under the statute.
Well, even if it's not on a foundation, if it stays on the blocks, that's just as good as a foundation on that behalf, because you can't just hook onto it and tow it away.
Well, but it says rendered structurally immobile.
So-
Now, how do you do that? You take the tires off, well, you can screw them right back on.
Take the axles.
You can take the axles, but you can put it back in, put it on a foundation, there's no question. Hardwire the utilities, and that's it.
And the structure still doesn't meet the building code that it also calls for in the statute.
That's right, but it said there's a rebuttable presumption. So,
Is there any crawl spaces in it that you can get up in the attic and look?
It's not a vault.
Really, any comments? Marcia? I know how, Marcia, I know how you feel.
I don't think it matches up to the ordinance, and it's a cute house. I know it's gonna be commercial, but it's following shack. That's just my opinion. I'm trying to
Yeah,
follow.
but the shack doesn't really,
It's not, I know shack doesn't do that, but shack has not been ended, so it is in our ordinance.
I know, but if you read the shack requirements, it's of the neutral colors. And, you know, it had specific colors and designs and stuff, and this isn't any, you know, bright pink or anything like that. It does meet some of that shack requirement. You know, because those are on the books, but they're old.
I thought at our last meeting, the consensus was between all of you,
Mhm.
when we took this down, I got it into real property, we were a done deal. It's been 3 weeks doing that, and now we're having another discussion.
Yeah, we still have to make sure it meets our ordinances. Which is why we're having, which sounds like we basically, for what you've done, it sounds like it is, as long as it has compliance. So I guess it's point if we want to take a vote on it. Rebecca.
I'll take it for public comment.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're. Let me see.
what did Rebecca say?
She's saving it for public.
Ooh,
Yeah, I know for some people, this is not a popular decision. But again, we have to go with our ordinances and decide if this meets what we got you to do and meets the ordinances. It sounds like it.
Then I make a motion that we accept
Ken
Wilson's proposal to put this in.
With requirements of the deed.
with the deed cut restriction, recorded deed restriction.
That's what I said.
And put on a foundation and hardwired to, hardwired to utilities.
Yeah.
Second his motion.
Well, the thing is, well, we can second that motion, but we also got to put the other motion in too, that we wanted, what Martin was saying, where the stipulation is it's got to stay as a big commercial.
That's the deed restriction.
That's a deed restriction?
Yeah, that's the deed
Yeah,
restriction.
very good.
Okay.
I'm just done here.
So. Do you you want to just restate your motion so you know what it is?
Deeded restriction and foundation and hardwired electrical and plumbing.
And septic, you know,
Well, yeah,
Well, he's got
plumbing's
it.
in plan, yeah.
So therefore that's.
Okay, the motion is to approve this.
you got,
Oh, well, I know.
Oh, that's fine. I
No,
can't
I
see.
mean, you can speak, but it should be
Alright,
during
that's
public comment. That's why.
Okay, but you're gonna vote before there's public comment.
It's not a public hearing.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to because this is a decision of the council, what we have in front of us.
Well, you just got yourself a lawsuit.
I'm glad you followed Shaq on your
Okay,
training scheme.
whoa.
Are we bringing Shaq back or not?
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll say,
We have the motion to pass this or deny it. It's for, just so we know, he has to have hardwired electrical and plumbing. He has to have a deeded restriction. And on the foundation. Right there. So, all in favor?
aye.
Marcia?
Opposed.
Aye. All opposed? Okay,
He said your first being all alone opposing something. I
so,
thought that was my.
What'd you vote?
yes,
I'm learning.
yes. So, okay, it's passed, but we do need to do all the restrictions. Because, what did you ask? Yes,
Also. Okay, so you have to have everything done by licensed contractors because it's commercial.
okay, we're going to move on. Yes. City contractor application, Timberlake Construction. He's wanting to be, and Renee gave us his business license details. Timberlake. Timber, yeah, you're timber
Line.
line.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think they approved me in 85.
yeah. So has anybody looked at this, have any problems, comments?
I looked at it. It appeared he qualified.
I could speak for him. He's done a couple subdivisions for me. Does a fantastic job.
He didn't bother to show up here.
Well, he sent, we have his bond, commercial bond, copies of his liability insurance. He sends us all this stuff. Discussion? Is there a motion to accept his request?
That's all. We accept it. He appears to be qualified.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Then we have, the wastewater lagoon sludge survey. I guess this is something we're supposed to do, what was it, every 2 years?
3 years, I
3 years.
believe is what it said, what he said.
And we have not had this done. It's going to cost us $2,400 to do it, but it's a compliance thing. Any discussion on that?
Do we have to put this out to bid though? I mean, he just came in and drew it to our attention. But it's not public, it's not improvement.
No. Not an improvement, it's just it's maintenance. Wouldn't you call it maintenance, Martin?
Is it what?
It would be maintenance of our lagoons, this.
Well, assume so, license, that would come along with licensing.
Yeah,
But it seems to me that's really expensive to determine how loose the bowels are in something.
well, this is the one, he Joseph too, right? Because this includes, I assume, his mileage and everything too.
Then we want one of our guys to be.
He wants one of our
Right,
guys
well.
to help.
Oh,
Yeah, they gotta go out in the room.
We want guy to drive a boat.
Well, you could use a float tube.
So is there any discussion on this?
who's supplying the boat?
It says they will supply all necessary equipment except a boat and motor.
Well, he's gotta have a motor.
Can have a motor too.
It's not that far.
Justin Long just got a new,
Party boat, yeah.
Well, is this something that, I mean, this is what he, proposed, and maybe this is something we should look to see if there's somebody else that does this?
Or what exactly the requirement is. I don't know what chapter and verse is on that. When I read that the other day, I didn't see that, and maybe I just missed it. I don't know. Oh, thanks.
Well, see, the thing is, though, is it says it's attached to another piece of paper, do you have that? Where it says, an example of sludge surveys performed for other cities in eastern Oregon attached reference.
Just watch how the ducks land on it, should tell you.
Well,
So,
the thing is, though, is if we want to do this, it needs to be done while they can float a boat, because if
Yeah.
we keep sucking water out.
Yeah.
If we keep sprinkling the irrigation around, then they can just walk out there.
you got more cost added to that, because now you gotta find a boat and motor.
Yeah, if you could walk.
Well, you pump it down, then it should only be about 2 feet thick.
You walking?
I'm not the one that's gotta go out there, because you don't have to have a boat motor.
I got a pair of leaky hip boots.
the very first inspection I did, I walked out, it was all dry until I stepped it and went up to here in mud. You gotta think about that.
So, do we want to look at this farther and see, get a little more info? Is that what we're?
Right, otherwise we're gonna find a boat and motor, and I don't know too many people are gonna loan their boat to
You might have
float the septic.
For 25
Okay, guys, I'm gonna table this and look till next meeting and see if we can get a little more info. Or find somebody else that can give us an estimate also. The White House contract, I guess it is June. It's June. Signed in June 8th, 2021. Any questions, anything you want to discuss on this contract?
Yeah. Just because we have required that mass out of the museum, I would also like to add on here that we'd like quarterly financials for what you run through the Sumter Valley and the fire department spread out to go with this. And that's because we're doing one for the museum. I want to keep them.
Is typically what we do in the White House and what we spend? Or are you asking for everything that Sumter volunteers? do?
Everything the Sumter volunteers
You know,
do.
that'd probably be easier than getting specific.
Yeah, everything the volunteers do, and then we will have the financials for that too. And I need to get a hold of Tony. I've asked her 3 times for the museum financials and haven't got the updated ones yet. So maybe my text is going to the wrong number. Just had several phone numbers.
So where do you add what you want to do?
Start with-
Do we need the means to go with me? Or at the end, because it's an add.
And Martin needs to.
So Martin, we're talking about the lease agreement with the volunteers in the Wright House.
Yeah.
And Marcia has requested that they give us a quarterly financial, like the museum's supposed to be doing, but the volunteers give us a quarterly financial too. So then we know what they're spending on the Wright House. Anything else we wanted to add to that from this?
Proof of insurance.
I think it's in, I think it's-
Yeah, at all times during the term of this lease, leaser shall maintain a full force policy or policies of fire insurance. So if we just have the paperwork on that, we can attach it.
Well,
No, that's lessor.
Less.
yeah, we can't,
Oh, less.
you guys own the building, therefore, we have no financial interest in it, we cannot get fire insurance on it.
But you could repay the city for what we pay.
Has that been opened yet for, other than just the volunteers meeting?
We have been having meetings and, I've invited council to come take a look or make use of it.
So other clubs in town can also hold meetings or?
They can, certainly. That's the idea.
Maybe next week I can get and take pictures.
That'd
As
be
soon
fine.
as soon as we take pictures inside, we can show that we've had some meetings in there, then our insurance changes drastically.
Tables and chairs are still set up, Linda,
Yeah. I need to do that.
and,
Can we get copies of the building permits that have been taken out?
well, Don can answer this. The only thing that has been added was that structure in front. And I talked to Don a couple of years ago. It's under 200 square foot, no electrical, no plumbing. I was told no permit required.
Well, that's probably not true now that I know it's a commercial building. I didn't, on a residence, a deck cover, if it's under 200 square feet and it's attached to the building, doesn't require it, but I'm not sure on a commercial. So, but I can check it.
Check it out.
Sure.
I talked to you 2 years ago, remember?
I mean, I talked, yeah, I know who you are, silly. I don't remember that specific job, but you and I have talked several times.
Yeah, it's under 200 square feet, no electrical, no plumbing involved. And,
But it would, yeah, and it has to be supported by the outside structure, but I think on that it's different on a commercial building than on a residence. And so I probably, because the residence, that is the code, but on a commercial, I don't think that's the code. I think we probably have to.
okay.
But that's not your fault if that's what I told you before, but again, I thought when you asked, it was on a residence.
Well, when I talked to somebody about the building, I explained it's city building. Normally, I explained it's city building and that we are leasing it to work on it, to improve it up to you standards.
Sure. Like I said, I don't recall it. I can pull the file. And see. I don't know. I think I did try to pull the file the other day when Renee and I were talking about it, and I didn't have a file on the Wright House at all because the address hadn't been assigned. So normally, if I make some sort of comment on a commercial building, there would be a file and there would be all these notes in it. But again, that doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that we might need to make an adjustment to fix it. Not too late. We can fix it.
Come on up, take a look.
Any more discussion?
So we're over tabling it, right?
No, I said any more discussion,
Okay, on whether to do this tonight?
whether we're going to renew this lease, yes.
Well, I have some questions.
Okay, let's That's
This paper in reference to that one.
Yes, it is. This was an exchange of emails that Dawn furnished us.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you're on the
You want a
hot
copy?
seat. You're on the hot seat.
Dawn, you want a copy?
No, I'm pretty sure I know what it's at.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that the city was informed they needed permits and that Renee was told that.
Recently. I don't know how long ago the awning was
Okay.
built, but recently I said that if there was a structural addition, it would have required a permit.
Well.
Right.
To begin with. This lease cannot be renewed. Because I don't believe there was any notice given of intent to renew it, at least I've not seen one as a council. Or is there one?
I have not received one.
Okay,
Oh,
Oh,
from John?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He brought it up a couple
I
of
brought it
meetings
up
ago.
in
no, this isn't right,
January, February.
this isn't right. Okay, and it says, you pay water, let's see. Lessee shall pay all utilities other than those provided by lessor. Water and sewer should be provided at no charge. I don't think that's really right. And it says they will comply with all laws. Now, the SHPO laws apply. I don't know, from what I've seen in correspondence, that SHPO has not been complied with, especially with regard to that roof.
The awning,
Yeah, or whatever you call it out front. And then John Patterson went over and put a 6-foot level up against it, didn't you? What'd you find?
It's 4 inches out of plumb and 6 feet. So if I held it up to the top, it's gonna be out close to a foot, I think. If you went up to the peak and held a plumb bob down.
And we've known that for quite a while. Kurt has been, when we replaced the south wall, we knew it was out of plumb. We improved the structural ability of the building. And SHPO has been informed. There was a plan submitted, I believe, 3 years ago, which was approved by them. And when I asked permission with SHPO to build a shelter so we could use the building year round, they approved that.
Can you furnish us those documents?
I think I can find it, yes.
Okay. And then I remember years ago when it was either Kurt or his brother who said that thing's a money pit and no money should be invested.
That was Karen Peters.
No, it was Kurt or his brother.
Well,
Do you recall that, Kurt?
I remember talk, but I don't.
and
Okay, then what these, and then it says there's gonna be ADA compliance. And you can't get into the thing, at least someone in a wheelchair can. You know, then we talk about, you know, the assignment, and they wanted to have flea market things there, and they wanted to have, outhouses there, as I understand it. And I can't recall whether we finally approved that or not.
We didn't,
Okay,
the outhouses are off,
okay,
and to have anybody in the house for a flea market as a vendor, they had to get their own insurance with us.
and they insured,
who gets the money for?
the money would go back into the White
Back
House.
into the White House. I checked on the insurance part and advised them that they would have to get their own insurance policy if they were gonna have vendors.
Okay, so we're gonna get some information from John about what has been spent on the White House, right?
Mhm.
And
We did that.
we got something from Leanne here 2-3 months ago. And it shows that the funds for the fire department were commingled with the other volunteer funds, which is illegal.
No.
Yes, it is.
The funds are separate, and they are on a separate line item.
It's in the same account, John. So this lease says option to renew, provided the lease has not been in default, and it has been in default, big time. And I think this is a monumental waste. And I don't think this council can legally renew this lease. Because it's been in default, there's no question about it. You know, stuff has been done without permits. That's not our fault.
Which stuff are you referring to?
Like, to my knowledge, that roof or whatever it is out front, you look at it, it's held up with a couple of brackets that I used to hold a rack for paper towels.
It has 2 columns that are rated at 20,000 pounds according to Muller Rome.
And that may be, but what holds them to the building, John, is little to nothing, and then they sit.
4 lag screws through the other supports.
All done without permits. Did you use Tico nails in the trusses?
Yes,
You did?
Kurt, didn't we use
Yeah,
Tico?
we use structural.
And were they engineered?
Yeah.
They were?
The trusses.
Trusses, no, they're not, no.
They
It's
were
only
built.
a 5-foot wide span.
All I'm saying is you can't legally renew this.
What else are you saying they haven't done?
Well, there's no ADA, you know, we can all come look, but there's no ADA access. You know, why are we paying the insurance? They can reimburse us for that. This thing's gonna be a 100-year project.
What would you do with the building if they weren't working on it?
I'd like to see it torn down
You
and.
can't do that, you have to give it back to the state.
You have to
Okay, give it back to the state, and they'll probably give it right back to us.
Let's give it back to the state and we'll work on it for the state.
I think that's a good idea.
Simply because certain members of council have no future for this city and see no gain for building an asset that can be used for the city.
Depends on who you are.
John, I've seen what has been
The
done
problem I
to this
have, I'm
city.
gonna talk,
Okay.
I'm gonna talk. The
No,
problem I have,
no.
John, is the shelf brackets holding up the roof on a city-owned building with wood foundation. What's under that? Is it just sitting on 2 boxes?
Where?
The
It's got
2 front columns are sitting on
4
boxes.
concrete pillars down into the ground about 3 feet. Kurt.
What's the box with the metal cap on it?
The box was basically a moisture, it's, what do you put under tile, John?
Grout,
Sorry, Becker.
grout?
Hardy backer.
Oh,
And it protects that concrete area from moisture. And then we can put other wooden structures on that to decorate, it, to
Okay.
make it look good, other than
so
concrete.
it's sitting on a concrete foundation?
It's sitting on 4 concrete pillars.
Okay.
Open sonotubes.
Okay, I'm just looking at a lawsuit when the
Okay,
shelf
guys.
brackets come down with the roof.
Martin, you want some more information from John as far as.
Yeah.
paperwork. Okay, so John, will you make an effort to find that paperwork?
I will find
For
that
next
paperwork.
council.
I had the file up there someplace.
So I'm gonna table this until next 2 weeks to find it, please.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so the next thing is Parks Grant. I tried, when I went to the League Small Cities meeting last week, and a lot of the towns are getting their parks refurbished through this State of Oregon's Parks Grant. So I did go out and look at it. Unfortunately, we had to be filed by May 1st. So I made all the information, I copied it all, and have it in a folder so that somebody next year can look into, because we can get like both parks improved through a grant, and it's up to $75,000 grant. So this one, we can't go forward with at this point. The Clean Air Grant is is a clean air shelter grant that's available for cities like us where we have smoke or excessive heat, where we have some senior people. We can get our buildings upgraded so they would be someplace in extreme weather that people could come. Renee started the application, but we had to have an amount that we were asking for. So I met with Brandon from Baker Heating last week. He went through this room to this building, how we would convert it back to propane heat and get rid of the oil, and put air filters in here if we had an issue, and also the schoolhouse. So that is soon. He was supposed to have an estimate by today, but don't have it. So, but that it's 100% grant to retrofit our buildings. So as soon as we get the amount, I'll let you guys know. Soon, they didn't give us a deadline, but it's kind of like, I think who gets it in first or early is gonna likely get the money. So he said he would definitely have that here to us this week, so we'll get that done. On the small cities, well, I jumped ahead, never mind. I'll get to that. Old business. Sisal Engineering, we heard that, we're gonna try to get that $20,000 grant to get the engineering done. I did meet with Joe. This wastewater's been going since 2016, and we owe Sisal Engineering some money that they have rolled because we were constantly trying to get grants. I asked him, and we don't have a grant that will cover that. It's an old debt that we have to pay. And he's going to submit a bill, and it's around $12,000. And then we'll be clear with Sisal as far as any back pay. So
What is this for? What years?
the wastewater,
Was this 12,000?
well, we paid him a little, but we haven't paid him anything the last couple of years because of us trying to get a grant.
So
And
this is not going back to like 2013, 14?
no, we paid some of that.
Okay.
We made small
Because
payments.
that was clear.
No, we made small payments, but this
That,
is for going forward. So he's gonna itemize it and we will get that bill from him. I was hoping we'd have it today, but didn't happen. The other thing, council meeting audio video. We have to get better audio video because I think it was like 3 months ago, there was a tech guy that came up here from Idaho, looked at here, and we were too small for, a large business to put anything in. It cost us a lot of money. He suggested we got a better camera and recorders and just hook it to our computers. And we have some pictures of some that work, that would pick up everybody in the room. I mean, everybody would be heard. And CIS came out with a risk management grant. It's not much. They base it on 1% of our city's total property liability and auto contributions. So our big amount we get is $303, which isn't a lot of money, but it'll buy us at least some cameras, some security cameras. Put at the door.
I'll talk
Through all
to
three doors.
Gary again, because he was gonna work, because they took those
That's
security
right.
cameras down. I'll talk to Garrett tomorrow.
Would you, because this
He's
is a
gonna
real-
give those to us.
This is a short deadline. It only came out on June 2nd from CIS, but we have to email our invoices by June 20th. So,
What's our next meeting?
so what we need to do, if we can find, at least get our security cameras, and then we would have to pay the rest for hooking them up to recorders. It would record who comes in and around the doors. So I don't know what you guys think. It's only $303, but it's still money to be spent if you want.
Well, you can hook up the blink one and turn it off when you go, and it goes into your, you go into the computer, reports everybody that comes in or out.
We'll actually need one, too.
individually.
We need one here too.
You can buy them individually and you can spend that amount of money. They're not that expensive.
And the thing from CIS also said that if we hadn't had I love this. But this is the one that said if we needed a security assessment to contact this guy. Renee contacted him and was told he wasn't even working anymore. So as of June 2nd, they still don't know who's working for them evidently.
So they're gonna give us $300.
They'll give us $303.69 towards security system. I mean, is it something we want to, I'm just throwing this out because we got the email.
That's free money, and then Gary had to go through Dennis, so I don't know. Theirs was 6 cameras plus the whole shebang, but I don't know if the state park will let them just hand it over, or whether they would charge.
You could give him $303.
I'll talk to him tomorrow, but you gotta, the next meeting's
Yeah.
past this time, so
We could have a special.
Well, we can have a special meeting.
I'll get a hold of him and find out and do it that way.
You know, I just- Well, this is, oh yeah, I'm sorry. This is for the meetings. I really think we need to upgrade and the cameras, how much is it? Where is it?
$6.99.
$6.99. But it has cameras on both sides, so it'd be facing out and this way, the mics also, right? So everybody would be picked up.
How many mics?
6. Oh, 8.
8 noise canceling mics.
Okay, and this is through this thing here?
No, this is something we just have to buy out of our pocket to upgrade for the camera that we're using right now, because right now it cuts out sometimes, so
Yeah.
people can't hear it. Where this should correct that because it's a little higher quality.
Well, and it's better than the owl, because the owl
Yeah. The owl
rotates
has a
around,
delay.
and this one's already got the dual
Mhm.
cameras on it.
Yeah.
For the second one.
We talked a while ago about getting somebody in here who knows what they're doing.
Right.
And has that occurred?
That has not occurred, but we had one gentleman here, was he from Idaho? And he came through and he looked at this, and he said our best option that would do what we need is to hook something into our computer, use something like this, and it's more cost effective for us.
Our acousticals were bad when he was in here, and for the size of the city, the amount of money he said.
That's the only thing, I mean, we could do it for $1,000, or we can spend $3,000 or $4,000 probably.
Well, I've noticed of late that the recordings, they just go dead at times, like somebody hit a mute switch or something.
It's because this camera just is not adequate.
I think we have 2 outfits in Baker that do this kind of thing, I think. And we ought to get at least one of them to come up here and tell us, because if we cobble things together, there's always a problem that this doesn't work with that.
So then we need to get an authorization to spend the money to get them up here, because they don't come up here for free. Because I think the one wanted, what, $500 to show up, to tell us what we can. and can't have.
Linda, you might call Dallas, he's the city clerk for Baker. He just upgraded the chamber in City Hall in Baker City
Okay.
with a different system. I'm not saying he'd
Okay,
have,
I will.
yeah, he might be able to give you some good information.
Same guy did a quote for Bakerville Fire District, and they have $1,500 for an enormous building, like 10 times the size of this,
I'll try to call
for
him
video
tomorrow.
cameras and the whole thing.
I'll try to call
The
him
city
tomorrow.
clerk's name is Dallas Brockett, and he could hook you up with whoever that is. Rocket,
Rocket?
yeah,
Okay, I will call him.
just a thought.
Okay, table it until next, I'm gonna call him tomorrow. So. Oh, Charlie. Small city allotment possible amendment to pay Boston Street.
I talked to Noodle and because Noodle is the building or the
Roadmaster.
He's county roadmaster. And he was gonna come up because we got $100,000 grant to do some streets up here that we have to do. However, because we're getting ready to pave going up here into Granite, so they're gonna have an asphalt plant out here in the county yard, state yard. If we can take that $100,000 grant and move it to Austin to pave Austin. I talked to Jeff today from High Desert, which they're the ones doing this. And he's gonna get us a price on what it would cost to pave that. And Renee is going to try to reach out and, because she talked to the person who's, I believe, that does a grant. Normally, they don't like to do a huge change, but this is a big one. So we have to submit a letter on why we want to go from moving dirt to pavement. This is a probably something that ain't gonna happen again in another 5 to 10 years. So it would be a good time for us to get on board with them if we can. If we can get the grant changed over to this, because it is a public safety deal to do Austin, not only from the pondways, but from blading snow and also ice. It'll be a lot better because pavement, as we all know, you get it down pavement. You get the sun to come out in the day, you got pavement showing. So I think it would be a good thing to try to do and put the $100,000 there. And then the grant that comes next year to go up and do our dirt work. If we can get this changed.
Dirt work, which,
Well, we have a road that we put in for, and it's Climax. And it goes from Granite up to Jeff and Daisy's place that they bought. Because it needs to be widened out. And the city's the one that gets to do this. This is the reason why we put in for the grant, because grant's free money, so therefore we can use it to do this. I had Noodle look at it. It's probably going to be, by the time we're done, if Noodle came up with his equipment and crew and the dump trucks, by the time we get done, we're probably looking at probably $30,000 going to Noodle. And then probably another $20,000 for us to finish it out. Because he's just gonna bring the dozer, dump trucks and an excavator to do that portion. And we've also got some other roads that all we need to do for this grant is gravel. So we can gravel some roads that need it, First Street, parts of Granite and Bonanza. These are the roads that are really, really bad, because this was a time frame incident, because we tried to use this grant to buy our grader, and we found out that we couldn't do this, and so therefore we can't use it for equipment. So therefore we had to do this, and I believe Renee sent it all to us in emails for what we wanted to try to do with this, and nobody said nothing, so we went and looked, and I just picked some bad roads, took pictures of it and sent it to them, and we got approval for it.
Charlie, on this paving, so are they gonna go up to the city cemetery?
No, we're just gonna go up around the corner where it flattens off. Right there by Simonson, so it'll go all the way up, it goes up the hill. You don't want to end up with pavement on an uphill spring, and you don't want to end up in a corner, so you go around the corner, and there's a flat spot, that's where it is. It's actually, we marked it today, and it's 0.4 miles, so it's over a quarter and under a half.
and so how big a lift you gonna put on?
2 inch for asphalt, but we need to, we're going to come back, and we looked at it. He thought about regrading it, but I told him, I said, Tim already came and tried to touch it up before, and all you do is pull up the big rocks. So if anything, we want to bring in gravel and re-gravel it, re-roll it, which will come from these folks as well. High Desert is the one that's doing the paving and doing the road work, and Four Seasons is the one that's crushing the rock right now. I talked to Noodle about that too, because the city needs gravel, and I think we get it really cheap. So, we need to see about here in the near future to see if we can afford to buy some gravel from them. Because it's gonna be the cheapest place to get it from.
And would this include any drainage structures?
The drainage structures that are already in place, he says, is really good. Because if you re-crown that road, because that crown probably needs to come up probably 6 inches in places. There's a place up by Simons's, between First Street and Climax. There's a stretch in there that the road's cantered the wrong way. So he wants to fill this in and recant it the right way. Whether we do that or whether they do it, I told him to figure it out in his pricing. Because if they do this, it won't be done until September, because that's when they plan on paving that down there on the highway. They might pave this first as a test run with the batch and all of the asphalt equipment. For the main streets, be Bonanza, Ibex, First Street. Instead of doing full aprons, we're just going to move over 2 feet. And that will be the apron for those places, because otherwise you end up spending all of your money and all of your time into labor making them fancy aprons, that they come in and out of. And then they're also going to tie into the post office, because that piece that's in front of the post office is actually in the city right away, in the street right away. So we would take that out, regrade that, and then tie into the parking lot pre-existing asphalt there. So that would all be connected.
When does he think he'll get this?
He said he'd be back in the office. He's hoping by the end of the week, so I should do something next week about it.
So by next council meeting, we should know.
We should know some more.
Doable deal.
The main thing is, as long
Or if we
as long as
can
it's
change
okay
that.
for Renee to keep pushing forward to see what it's.
Change them.
So
And he says the biggest, well, we need to do, because I said that it should go 25 feet, the road width, so we're going to do a little over a 12-foot strip on each side is all we need to do. The road right away is still there, which that's fine, because that means the snow won't be sitting on the asphalt, it'll be off into the dirt. So it'll drain there. The drainage, as you said, Martin, it's there. And it's going to get better because, like I said, we're going to raise the crown up where the crown needs to be. They're not going to move the engine.
But there's a bunch of crushed culverts too.
Well, if that's the case, well, we need to fix those if they're out there.
So how's the sidewalk gonna tie into where the drainage
We don't have
is?
to have one.
You don't have to have a sidewalk?
No, because we don't have ADA, doesn't comply to that road. Because we don't have any ADA to tie into. The same thing like the state highway. And Jeff said the same thing. He says that we don't have ADA along the highway, let alone on the sidewalks or on the side of the roads. And I showed him the one that goes to the state park. And he said, well, I see this one, but he says at the same time, he says, it don't go nowhere. It don't even go to the railroad tracks.
But when they paved that, didn't they require that sidewalk to be in with the ADA?
Noodle said when they paid that, he said no. Because Noodle's the one that paid it. Because he says, I didn't realize that they put that in. That was something to make the state park pretty.
Is this lift, is it feathered at the sides or come abruptly and then you fill in with gravel and roll it, or how's that?
Yeah, we're gonna do, so that way we get a true 2-inch lift. So that way you don't end up breaking off the edge of the asphalt as you come in. So therefore, we're gonna do a full lift, 2 inches all the way across, and then we'll feather it in with gravel and roll it on that behalf.
Hopefully we can get, a price, so really if we can do it, and we'll know it. They'll let us know. Do it on
Yeah,
the-
that's the biggest holding thing that we've done is to see if we can get that grant adjusted
I think we
to
can-
there, because I think that would be And it's just me, but I think that would be a really good place to put it. We've talked about it in the past, about doing it, and everybody seems to be on board with it. It is a high traffic area. And everybody goes to the post office.
Yeah, we just have to work on
Going up
those
that far,
justifications.
I mean, to me, it's nice if you went that far. It's easier to keep clean for snow. You don't have that issue.
So
You don't have the dust.
what if it costs more than $100,000 grant we got, then the city's liable to pick up the rest?
The city will probably be liable to pick up
That's
the
what we
rest,
have
but
to
we
just
won't know
find out.
until you get there, because the biggest thing that Joe or Jeff told me today, because we need 665 tons of asphalt. Is what it's going to take to do this.
Well, generally, they tell
So-
you how much it's gonna cost you per mile of asphalt.
Well, the thing is, though, is that part he has no problem with. This is the problem he has. Quotes only are good for 2 weeks. So now we have to get a hold of the oil company and find out what the speculation is on the oil that we gotta use for that. And they gotta do the same thing, because they're not planning on asphalt from here to Granite until September. Right now, they're working on the chip, they gotta chip the asphalt that's in there, get rid of it, and regrade the road and do the turnouts. That's what they're doing now. That's what the trucks running in and out of town.
So by then, the price of oil might be such that we can pay 15 feet.
This is legal, this is more likely. Because like I said, it's amazing how everything keeps moving, but
So hopefully the next meeting we will have all that, so we can make a decision.
well,
Okay,
do we want to make, go ahead and have the main fire
Yeah.
switch over? Because if we can't switch it, there's no reason to
yeah,
keep moving forward.
we'll have Renee see if it's even a doable deal. So,
And then the other end of this is, if we get, Four Seasons to crush us some rock, so we can have some gravel here. He's gonna get us a price on that as well, because basically we would pay whatever they're charging per ton or per yard to crush it. And then we would pay Noodle, the county, for royalties on the rock that they're using. The asphalt side is a different deal on the gravel side. And I'm thinking that if we could spend $25,000 on gravel, that would give us probably between, depending on their price, but for what it is from RD Mac right now, you're probably looking at a little over $2,000. 2,000 yards, that's 200.
But we also have dust abatement bill coming up too. We'll have to see how that figures in. That's start, when gonna start dust abating. So it's-
They're supposed to be here tomorrow, but we'll see. Snow flying on the ground today. So,
Our want list is huge.
well, the thing is, though, is either way you look at it, we gotta get some rounds. I don't care how you look at that. And that's whether you wanna go pay $22 a yard and you figure out how you're gonna get it from already knocked up to here, or from Triple C. Because trucking in, I've got people right now that have been out of shape because they came to me and go, how come when I call and ask them how much gravel is, they tell me it's $22 a yard and I buy it, and then it gets up here and I gotta pay $700 because they didn't tell me that that was not trucking included. That's a because you didn't ask for it. So I said, you got a yard price.
well, we'll just,
Yeah, but
okay. Okay, Councilor comment, Martin, do you have anything you want to bring up?
I think that pretty much said everything.
Marcia?
I'm on a roll.
Wait,
Okay. Oh,
put me at the end.
no, you could go, jump in.
They're it.
Well, I see there was this thing here to be read.
Oh, yes, I've got that
That's
still.
coming.
That's coming. I see
Oh,
that.
okay, you're gonna do that, okay.
Yeah, well, I need to do what?
This is on our city phone, cell phone that Greg has taken out of the city. We do have a resolution that city electronics are to be signed out for, not supposed to leave the city other than, the cell phone may be going to get parts and stuff. He currently does still have it in Colorado. He is not involved in anything the city's doing. We're at 19 months out of the 24 from paying off the phone, so we could pay off the phone, but I'm just requesting that we disconnect the city phone. The two maintenance guys do not want to carry an extra phone. Everybody just calls them. I don't want to carry an extra phone. These two, would you like to carry an extra phone, a city phone?
I don't even carry one phone, so an extra one's out of the question.
He is, you know, and the whole thing is not to be used for personal use. And I have 3 months here, and there's quite a few personal use phone calls here.
For how much?
Well, it's unlimited, everything, but it itemizes. When he was in Boise, he made numerous phone calls, and I called those people, and it was all personal. It was not.
And I move, we unhook it and demand that he return it immediately. This is crap. That's my motion.
Don't share.
I'll second it.
Yeah, meanwhile.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Renee, would you call Verizon, please?
Yeah,
Or
Linda has to. I don't have authority to do that.
Yeah, I got a whole lot of stuff in there. Okay, all right. Charlie, do you have anything else?
No problem. Oh, no, I guess I do. High Desert is, they come to and they ask if they could use our water like they did when they did this before, for the paving. And I told them, we had a council meeting tonight, but I don't know if you wanna charge them for water or if you just wanna let them use water, because we're trying to make a working relations, the way I see it, because these are the people that are gonna try to help us in the long run.
Well, okay, if you're gonna sell mix to the county, who's gonna pass it on at the county's cost, right? To us, under this grant.
Well, we're supposed to be hopefully getting us a little better deal.
We're gonna try to get a little better deal on that, Martin,
From who, the county or the?
from both. Because, High Desert's the one that's doing the work, and High Desert's the one that's gonna do the paving. The paving is theirs. The rock end of it comes from Four Seasons. So the rock end of it, more than likely, we'll wanna just, which, whatever we can get, if we can get the same price that High Desert's getting it crushed for, which that's gonna be, we're not going as fine as High Desert, because we're not doing asphalt mix, we're doing probably 1.25 inches down on gravel for us. And that's,
And just the grass.
that's the gravel in for us. So it'll be like 1.25 inches minus, 1 inch minus. It'll be the mix right there. If we can get that crushed down to that, which is gonna be cheaper than trying to do 1/2 or 3/8 minus, because the 1/2 or 3/8 minus is gonna be, it's more wear and tear, so they charge you more.
Right, so we're gonna be paying High Desert or the other Four Seasons?
We're gonna probably be paying Four Seasons, and hopefully we're gonna get it at High Desert's price, because he's the one working with them.
Okay, well, if we do, then let's not charge it. If we don't, charge it.
Okay.
Because we're getting charged one way or the other, you know, for, against our grant, that's a charge.
Well, it will be for laying the asphalt.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be a charge like if you went and got these guys, because these are the same people that are in RD Max Yard in LeGrand.
Yeah.
And so that's their asphalt plant that's there. So I'm saying that it would cost us more money if we went to LeGrand than it is if you go right here out of the city pit.
Well, sure, because we get ripped off
Yeah.
that way. What I'm saying is, if we get the good deal,
Okay,
then don't charge them for the water. If we have enough water for the residents of this town to pay water bills.
right. And the thing is we're going to pull it out of the fire hydrant that comes into town. It's not chlorinated water. And right now, the towers are full and the creek is full. So if they don't take the water out, it just ends up down there by me. and John.
Okay,
So, but we should have plenty of water.
but when they do this, that needs to be checked.
Or they wait, they don't,
Well,
they do
they're-
this until September?
No, they're going to, the water end of it's gonna be used
Right.
immediately. Right now, they ain't gotta use it because we've had all this rain, so everything's still wet. They're locked at their pressure and everything else is free water. They're not even making dust for the pressure right now.
Because if we get in later where we actually do have a shortage of water, then.
See, and normally, see, last year when I got involved, or not last year, 3 years ago, whenever it was, they came in and we got involved in it. All they wanted is the water truck to fill up with water for the rollers and more than anything for fire prevention, because they were up there during the fire season. So we did that.
Okay, I just have two things, make it clear, because it's getting long here. The city received an email, a nice email. Okay. Responding to the great job that John and Rebecca did for their ATV. Am I speaking loud enough? Their ATV parade and ride and poker run. And they said that your meals and your breakfast and your dinner were great. And just said that they really enjoyed themselves and wanted to let us know that you did a great job. And I'm glad it went well for you, since it was raining.
Who was it?
Hmm?
Who was it?
It was a group.
I'll give you a copy of it.
Oh, yeah, I can give you a copy. Duncan?
Oh, Duncan's?
Yeah, Duncan's in their group. So,
And they did it without city money
well, it's
or
good.
help.
Well, it's good. But I'm glad it went well for you. And the one other thing is, Martin,
Yeah,
are you working on an agreement with Baker County?
Yeah.
Okay, just doing a rough draft on a contract or something?
yeah.
Okay. Just want to be sure, because we got all this ordinance stuff to get done, so I kind of like to know where we're gonna go with all this.
Okay.
Are we, in the meantime, gonna get a group together to work on that, or?
Well, this was my suggestion. I was going to you guys, we have all these ordinances we need to go over. And I would like to see a couple of counselors and some private citizens sit down and go through the ordinances and come up with some recommendations. Instead of just us, get some recommendations for others. So I'd like you guys to think about maybe doing that. Actually, I thought maybe Martin, you would like to do it since you don't like our verbiage most of the time.
I don't,
So you, and, Marcia likes to do good at digging, but I was thinking that I'd love to see Rebecca get involved with it, with a outside group.
I second that motion.
Because, yeah, so I mean, this is an idea, if we could, if there's some other people that might be interested, because, you know, then you could just meet together and kind of argue and duke it out and then come back maybe with something, but it's just, we need some other eyes to look at this.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say for public comment. I was really encouraged to see Ken Wilson come in here and apply. And I know when, from our experience, if you feel like you're getting picked when you have an application and you have to listen to all the hoops that you have to jump through. And I'm encouraged to see Bob Blum and Dave Simonson working on a matter that needs to be cleaned up and taken care of. And it's encouraging.
So, I mean, it's just, we need to think about it, and we need to think of maybe somebody else that would, you know, like to maybe bring some names back and get a group together, you know, work on these ordinances. So that was just, that's my recommendation, and maybe you all can think about it, and maybe a few more people like want to do it. So, have a comment? Come on up. Can't hide in the back.
Oh, man, Hey, I'm highly in favor of paving Boston Street, but it's already a racetrack. How are you gonna slow them down?
You're never gonna get a slow down.
speed dips.
Speed bumps. No.
No, you can't have a bump because the grader won't work.
Yeah.
I don't know if it went on a dip either.
Yeah, you blame
Yeah,
over
it just
the
goes right over,
guys.
throw it up the snow. But anyway, it's already a racetrack. I mean, they're going down there 40, 50 mile an hour.
Well, you won't have this one.
They do it on Mill Street too.
Well, I know,
You know,
but anyway, yeah, oh, that's what I'm saying, I'm all in favor of it being paved. Because of the dust, my wife would, you know. But anyway, it just needs to be slowed down.
Caltrips work well.
What's that?
Caltrips, they were invented by the Romans, or nails, or welded together and sprinkled on the streets. They work well against cavalry and cars.
Okay,
Roofing nails?
moving on.
Anyway, that's why.
Anybody else? Public comment?
I have two things.
Okay.
I mean, I know, I just wanted to, not to beat a dead horse, but I just wanted to give you guys a couple comments from the topics that you talked about from the building department perspective. And then I also wanted to offer, if you guys had any other questions, I've always offered to come up if you needed any input from us, or if you wanted any input from us. We're always happy to be your partner, and we're not looking to beat anybody up, but to solve problems. So on the Wright House, again, we don't even have a file on it. So anything that they've done on it wasn't permitted. That doesn't mean that we can't bring it up to speed. We do that all the time. People do things without getting permits, and we have to catch them up and stuff, and we can do that. But like while John was talking, he said, remember when we rebuilt that wall and fixed that foundation? All of those things need permitted, not just the awning on the front. So painting doesn't, maybe changing out the cabinets or the flooring or the carpeting, but on a commercial building, almost anything else does need a permit. So while the city owns it, you might just want to be cognizant of that. I'm not trying to be a bad guy, I'm just saying you just might want to be cognizant of that. Second of all, on the park model RV, as kind as I think you guys are being and stuff, and I know I kept saying, yeah, but it's gotta meet building code, it's gotta meet building code. I didn't want to just keep hammering that in. I don't know for sure, because I've never actually been in that park model RV, but most park model RVs don't meet the egress. So people can't sleep in there legally, so you couldn't rent that out as an Airbnb. Code and things like that. And the state of Oregon is trying to amp up people being responsible regarding energy consumptions. Pretty much guarantee you it doesn't have the right kind of insulation in there for permanent living. And so if you're putting a different person or a different family in there every weekend, it's the same thing as a permanent living. You know what I mean? So anyway, I just wanted to warn you so that he doesn't come back and yell at you guys when I say, I mean, if it turns out that I have to say, you don't know. I just want to be sure that I'm transparent since I'm sitting here, that I see other problems down the road potentially, and you just might want to talk to him about that. Does that make sense?
The thing is, though, is, seeing as we followed our ordinance,
It still won't meet building code.
well, the thing is, though, is the monkey should be off our back, right? Per se.
Passing it to you.
Well, I mean,
Because now it's up to you whether you get to do
sure
it.
you can, except for that I was here. And so I'm just saying he may try to come back on you guys because I was here, and I didn't mean to make it harder for you. I was trying to help by being here to answer
But
questions.
legally, the thing is, though, is on our behalf, we did what we were supposed to do.
Land use wise, she said it was okay.
And it's like. so-
And if Renee can just make sure that the minutes point out that the building official kept saying that it might not meet building code, that would cover you guys all the way. I just want to make sure, because I can see this one going badly. You know what I mean?
Well, it shouldn't have been towed up there to
No.
begin with.
You know, most of these park model RVs have ended up, let me tell you what Rich Daniels did with his that he owned that were leftovers for him. He built himself an RV park up towards Anthony Lakes, and he parked every one of them in his RV park, his approved RV park, and he rents them out as Airbnbs every weekend. He rents them out all the time, but that's not in the middle of town on a private lot, you know, commercial or otherwise, it's in an RV park. Most of the park model RVs end up in an RV park, and yeah, absolutely, people are using them for permanent dwelling, but it's in an RV park, so they know what they're getting. Does that make sense?
Yes, Dawn, is he able to modify that to meet code?
Doubt it. I
Yeah,
mean,
because I think back in the day when Sherry and I were looking at the ones from North Power, which this one here's not, they had the same issue. And then it's also, I talked to, I think it was Steve, about the park models, and then also about the tough sheds. And we ended up with the same thing. He said, don't even get started. And that was right at the same time, that was the winter.
my Steve,
No, yeah, your Steve.
yeah.
Because when he was up doing an inspection, I was doing some gravel, but anyways, he told me, he says that none of those meet any habitability. He says, if you go back to the person who draw it up and you can get them to put that stamp on it, he said, well,
Well, and this is a man who's had 30 years inspecting for the state of Oregon before I hired him after he retired to be my part-time inspector. So, and one of his main jobs was inspecting HUD manufactured homes in their plants and things like that to make sure that they were maintaining. And we've told people like Rich Daniels in North Power, take your little RV through the what do they call it, the modular program? And if you give them a set of plans, they will come to your plant, see how you put it together, and if they approve that, they'll give it a stamp similar to the HUD stamp on the manufactured homes. Then you can sell them and set them anywhere you want in the state of Oregon. That's not what that was. You know, and so if it doesn't go through the modular program, it's still an RV. Anyway, just FYI.
No, I'm glad you came up, you know, to give us some support.
Anytime, you guys got me out of the city council meeting in Baker.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Woohoo! They're start at 7. Ugh. And we don't make it forever.
Hurry. Hurry.
Don't tell my boss.
Okay, John, you have something
Okay.
to say?
Okay, Vince, we're talking about park model RVs and stuff like that. And you're gonna work on ordinances, and Rebecca probably knows them better than any of you guys, I'm serious there. So, the ordinances are for everybody, not who or what they belong to, or what they wanna do, anything. You are blind people reading this piece of paper, now you can't see who's on the other side of it. That's what you need to do. Because this weekend, and I'm not promoting my park, I don't care. What I care about is this town, and I actually do. This whole thing was an RV park last weekend, and I'm okay with somebody coming for the weekend and seeing their friend and parking in the yard, that's okay. But at the end of your driveway, Nash's have a RV set up permanently, pretty much.
They
And they want to build a house there, they've already told me that.
Yeah, they brought it in, they're supposed to be coming back and getting the septic put in now,
Mhm.
which I think is something that, well, it's conditional use. He needs a conditional use stating that he's gonna build a house. Yeah, they left it 2 weeks ago.
So he's gonna have to do a conditional use to build a house in the CR zone after 1987, says you can't.
No.
What? Then what is it?
He can put that there if he's gonna build a house and he has a time frame to build the house. He can live in it while he's building the house.
Okay, but you can't build a house in Sumter in the CR zone after 1987. That's what I said. You need to get the R
Oh,
out.
I know, the whole thing needs to
So
be
why are we
changed.
letting these people continue on? And I know it's not the council's fault. I've talked to Scott numerous times about telling people, you can't build a house in the CR zone after 1987 and live in it. You can't. And I could give you probably up to 20 instances up and down Mill Street and around there where people are violating your ordinances. So you either enforce it for everybody or throw them in the garbage.
This is why-
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, this is why-
Yeah.
We've been drugged through the ringers. Worse than I think anybody in this history of this town fighting to just try and be what we want to do on our own property. And then you go around town and everybody's got RVs hooked up and this done and that gone and shit that's not permitted. Where does it stop?
I know you keep looking at me, but haven't I
Well-
brought it up numerous times?
Well,
Let's
yeah, I
get a
mean-
letter to these
Linda ain't
people.
looking at me.
Oh, I'm looking, I'm just making notes.
I've been trying to get a
So-
letter to Paige so that we can get all of these people that are living in their camp trailers year round. It's a conditional use. It is not allowed. They're only supposed to have it there to come and go.
That's in the RL zone.
Yes, no, that's in the
Isn't it?
residential.
All
All in the
So
residential.
what'd you say though? Say it again.
Residential zones, they can leave their camp trailer on their property according to our ordinance. They can't live in it full
Yeah.
time. They can come and.
No,
go.
I'm not talking about like your RV or my RV parked alongside my house.
No, these
I'm
are the
talking about the
people
ones
that
living
have
in them.
RVs that are living, keeping them on their property all summer, some all year long, have not come down and got a conditional use.
Mhm.
And I've been trying to get, we're trying to get a letter to Paige to start getting that brought up, but how far do you go? These people, some of these people have been doing this for 2-3 years. Do you go back or do you start saying, let's start from right now? If you're gonna pull a trailer in on our zone and live in it year round, and maybe have your buddy brings his up for the summer, that's gotta quit. They gotta come in. It's only supposed to be for occasional and it's not there for
Is
you.
it like 29 days a year or something like that? That's what it is.
I don't think we have it
Yeah, I
specified
don't
by
think it's
day.
in
We
that's
don't
not in
have
this
it, it
ordinance.
just says, see, it says seasonal.
It's seasonal, we
It
can't live
says so
on
they can make use of their property,
property.
blah, 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 basically during the summer, I would say,
Well, the
that's-
thing is, though, that's where the seasonal part for up here comes into play, because you come up and I'm here seasonally, because I'm riding my side by side. But then I'm up here for the winter season because I'm snowmobiling. So therefore, we
It's more-
got
it's
two
more-
seasons under the
It's
same.
more
park.
specific, it's more specific than that.
So, yeah, and where do you start? Do you start with the people that are coming in right now? So if they sell their house and then you tell the person they gotta come in for conditional use? Or you go back and get all of them?
actually you go back to the beginning of the ordinance.
They violated the ordinance.
Because there's a lot of people trying to buy lots up here to put a camper on. That's what they're trying to do.
I know, and
You
I
know?
explained that to Scott. Please tell these people that they can't do this, because, some of it makes it sound like they can come up and leave their trailer there and live in it.
And the city's ordinance is not attached to any title reports. So he's off the hook. The title company, the best thing about their whole 15 sheets of stuff is 14 and 0.75 is their disclaimer of why you can't sue them or anything for screwing up. The rest of it's about that big and says you can live there. But so it's gotta come from the city. I would just say when
Scott's got liability.
does he?
If he fails to disclose a material fact,
Yeah.
yes, he does. And that's a material fact. If
So
you can't
maybe we
do
should
it,
send out a letter to every realtor in this area
We should.
and say, hey, quit selling our stuff to people downtown that want to build houses down in our commercial zone. You ain't gonna have none left. And pretty quick, it's gonna be $500 to go get groceries or go see the dentist or get your hair cut or something, because we have no businesses here.
Yeah, we are very aware.
So-
of it, because
But like I said, the ordinances should be for everybody. You guys are lady justice. You don't see who it is wants to do it and you don't screw them over or be hard on 'em or whatever you want to say. It should be fair for everybody that comes to this town. There's a lot of people want to move here and this town should be growing instead of stifling it. So my usual rant.
Thank you. Anybody else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, John. John?
Me?
John?
Hey, Vern.
I've already raised my hand.
Two things.